Hey, welcome to this week's live cast. There's a thunderstorm in St. Louis right now, and so hopefully we make it through this live cast. But if the power suddenly cuts out, it means that the power is out and the video is out too. So thank you for joining me for now, and I hope you're doing well and staying safe. I know there have been some big tragedies in the world recently. In Beirut, in Scotland, there was a huge train crash. In Baltimore, some buildings exploded, and in Chicago, the Chicago and upper Iowa and southern Wisconsin area here in the U.S., nearly 1 million people are out of power right now. And there was a giant hurricane in the U.S. on the East Coast. So I hope you are staying safe and healthy. And that's not to mention the pandemic right now. So I hope you're staying healthy in those regards as well. So today, Pete mentions this in the comments. I should mention this just in case power does go out. Today, I announced the Tapestry expansion, Tapestry Plans and Ploys. I posted, there's a new page on our website just for this expansion. I also posted about the first design diary entry on the Tapestry Facebook group, so feel free to go check that out there or on our website, either way. I talk about some of the design goals that I had for this expansion based on listening to feedback and just some ideas that I had for the expansion after I was done with the core game. And so I kind of shared some general concepts, what the goals were, and over the next week, I will be revealing what's actually in this expansion and how I think we accomplished those goals. Again, the art was done by Andrew Bosley, and the sculpts, again, because there are some new landmarks in here, were done by Ron Brown. This is just the front of the box because I always accidentally show the back of the box too early, so I've learned that lesson. This is just the top of the box. I may answer your questions, feel free to ask, but most likely I'll say I'm going to be talking about that in a design diary over the next week. But we'll see. You can see Biddy in the background there. He's a little worried about the rain. I think Walter's hiding right now. Let's see if we have some questions here as I start out. It looks like Zach says his power just cut out. Chris says, what are the cats up to today? Well, Biddy's over by the window watching the rain, and Walter, I think, is hiding. Joshua says, any chance you will do live shows on YouTube? I can't get to Facebook on my work computer, but would love to watch these live. Phone data gets eaten up. Joshua, yeah, I've tried doing YouTube live via Hangouts and just YouTube's live channel, but it doesn't work well for me for some reason. I found that the video has a lag, and so it's really weird to watch myself talk on like a lag to watch my face. Like right now I'm watching my live video and it's easy for me to talk as I'm doing this, but YouTube adds a lag. It's really, really weird. So I haven't had success doing that. However, I know it's better live, but I do post these videos on my YouTube channel after I'm done. So it will be on YouTube afterward. You just can't participate live, which I know isn't quite as fun, but it will be there. And I'll still answer questions there. That's actually where I answer questions after the videos are done. Mike says, do we have to know what those civilizations are that you posted to your Instagram? Yeah, I teased 2 of the new civilizations on Instagram the other day, and yeah, I'll say what they are, but I'll reveal what they do in one of the upcoming design diary posts. People did guess them correctly, but not the same. No one guessed that, as far as I'm aware, guessed both of them correctly. One of them is the aliens, and the other is the treasure hunters. So people did name treasure hunters and aliens, but I don't think anyone named both treasure hunters and aliens. So a bunch of people named archaeologists, which would have been a perfectly fine name for the treasure hunters. And someone had a good name for the aliens too, that wasn't based on aliens, but I can't remember what that name was. Intergalactic something maybe. Mohammed says, I'm guessing if we're champions, we'll get it first. Well, Mohammed, kind of. When we open the pre-order in early September, everyone and anyone will be able to pre-order from us as long as supplies last. However, as usual, we ship to champions first, and then right as soon as we're done shipping to champions, we'll start shipping to non-champion customers. So we do favor champions slightly, but we try to treat all of our customers well. And so in September, we intend to ship the expansion to all customers who order it from us during that time. And then the retail release date is typically a few months after that. And actually, Pete just asked when will we be able to get the Tapestry expansion, and that kind of answers your question too, Pete. Stephen says, "Can you please tell me everything about the Tapestry expansion?" I like the way you phrased that, Stephen. Ma says, will there be a French version by Madigo as usual, or will there be delays? So yes, there will be a French version by Madigo. They are part of the first localized print runs. The way that we publish our products is that I create the English version of the product, and we send it to the printer, and as soon as we send it to the printer and the files are final, we send those files to our localization partners, who usually spend between 30 and 45 days translating them and getting them ready for production. And so there is technically a delay between the first English printing and the first localized printing, but it's not really a delay. It's just they're different printings. There's no reason for me to wait for the English version, wait until those localized versions are ready to start printing the English version. So I wouldn't use the word delay here. There's just a different timing depending on which print run partners join, or English versus localized versions. Kevin says, I assume some advanced copies went to reviewers. When will they be allowed to speak about it? Yes, we typically give reviewers between a month and 2 months, advanced copy reviewers, a month and 2 months before we say this is the day where you can start to share your opinions about it. So they have plenty of time to play it and form their opinions. They don't feel rushed throughout that process to be like the first one to release a review. The first day, I actually don't know it offhand. I think it's at least a week before the pre-order, maybe 2 weeks. So late August, I think. I don't have the exact date in front of me right now. Ryan says, will the expansion fit into the base box? No, Ryan, I mentioned this in the design diary post. I had a bunch of design goals for this expansion. One of the design goals was not fit it into the base box, because that adds a lot of restrictions. I wouldn't have been able to add new landmarks at all if I had had that constraint. So the answer is technically no. If you want to use the original insert, this definitely does not fit. However, if you want to remove the original insert from the original box, yeah, you can fit a ton of stuff in there. You can put your cat in there too, because that insert takes up plenty of room. So if that's important to you, just remove the insert from the original box, and yes, it will fit then. Tony says, would I be willing to divulge the number of new landmarks? More than 5, less than 10 is his guess, is his range. And I will say yes, it's within that range. I'll reveal the number, I think, in a day or so. Chad says, how much did I love the cover art to Plans Employees? I really love it. Andrew is such an amazing artist to work with, and his composition, his lighting is incredible. I love what he did with it. I gave him a few rough guidelines about what the expansion was about, what I was looking for on the box, but I really like what he came up with. Yeah. Tim has a tough comment, but I'm going to read it here, Tim, because I'm glad that you said this. He said, looking forward to Pendulum coming in. Pendulum is arriving in fulfillment centers this week, maybe next week. The freight shipping is taking a while, but as soon as it arrives, we'll get our fulfillment centers working on it. Tim says, I'll be sure to check out Tapestry and its expansion. He first played Scythe on the day my mom died back in May. Tim, I'm so sorry to hear that. He says he's been a fan of Somar ever since. Your games have been a good source of entertainment during this grieving process. Tim, I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry, but thank you for sharing that in the comments here. Yeah, I'll keep going with questions. That really touched me that you shared that, Tim. But I'm going to keep going with questions. I do have some random topics that I'm going to bring up today. I've gotten to play a lot of games recently, actually, that I'll mention in a minute. Let's see. Han says, I know the expansion is not out yet, but any thought on more expansions, like a legacy like Scythe? Scythe doesn't actually have a legacy expansion. It has a campaign expansion. Legacy means when you make permanent changes to a game, and that an expansion or a game features permanent changes, whereas The Rise of Fenris can completely be undone. It is a campaign expansion. As we don't have plans for a legacy version of Tapestry, I guess it's possible, but legacy games are a beast to design, as I experienced with Charterstone, which is a legacy game. So I don't have plans for that at this point. Tyler says he's wearing his Stonemaier shirt today, too. That's awesome, Tyler. I try to wear it on days when I talk specifically about Stonemaier products. Nathan says, I saw you mention that you played Ultimate Frisbee in your recent blog post. Any chance there's a video of you playing? You know, it's been a while since I played. I played a lot of Ultimates in college. Just pick up, not any elite form of Ultimate, but a lot of pickup and intramural. And then I played after college for a long time. And then I went back to pick up soccer. I played soccer my whole life, much longer than I played Ultimate. But no, I'm not aware of any videos of me playing it. There are a few videos on Instagram of me doing very poorly at disc golf, but I've gotten a little bit better since that initial session. I've only played, 3 times this time. So I did a blog post earlier this week about disc golf, which is like Frisbee. It's Frisbee golf, using a very different disc than when you play Ultimate. And an observation I had about a company that makes these discs that uses different animal names for every disc that they have. And I really like that concept of using fun names for discs that otherwise have relatively boring stats to them. Not boring, I mean, so they're interesting for disc golf enthusiasts, but they're not exciting to say out loud. I also did two recent videos I did. Ooh, that was some nearby lightning. I did a video about the search for Planet X yesterday. If you want to check out that video, if you like deduction games, that's on my YouTube channel. My Sunday sit-down video this past week, what was that about? It was about two multiplayer games that I think play really well at two players, that I really enjoy at two players. And my Sunday sit-down video upcoming this week that I've already filmed, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I have already filmed it, is about cooperative games that prevent or greatly diminish the possibility for quarterbacking. So my favorite cooperative games that have very little quarterbacking or alpha player syndrome in those games. Jose says, I remember that you mentioned a new component that you thought of for Tapestry that might be included in an expansion. Will it come in this one? There are actually two new components in Tapestry. One is a mechanical component, a new type of card, and one is another component that we've added that we had some playtester feedback about, so we added it into the box as well. So I'll reveal those soon. Chris says, would I please consider doing a Sunday sit-down regarding my favorite approaches for the hidden roles mechanism? Hidden roles, yeah, you're right. I don't think I've done a video about hidden roles. So do you mean hidden roles like in Lords of Waterdeep? Everybody has a secret mission. I have done a video about. I did one recently about quests and missions, and I've done one I think about objectives. I don't know if I've talked about specifically hidden objectives, but I think I have talked about that. Some games that apply to that in another video. So if you looked up maybe quests, missions, and objectives, you might find some of that. David says, how many civilizations are you adding this time? I'll reveal that soon, David. I guess it's not a big secret, but I'll wait to reveal it until I do the civilization design diary post in a few days. Kurt says, how do you become a champion customer? Yeah, that's a great question, Kurt. If you go to the Stonemaier Games website, or if you search on Google like Stonemaier Games Champion, there should be a page that comes up. Maybe someone can link to it here while I'm live, where you basically pay $15 a year, and the main intent of that payment is to support the content that we create, and not like the games that we create, but the 100+ blog posts I write every year to help, or not help, but I ideally help my fellow creators, and the 150 plus videos that I post every year on YouTube about my favorite game mechanisms and top 10 lists and things like that. And as a nice perk for that, you get a discount on shipping when you order from us, and when you pre-order from us, you are prioritized as a champion. Your orders get shipped out first before non-champion customers. So most champions who order at least 2 products from Stonemaier Games each year, they end up saving on shipping on the second product that they order, and for everyone after that, because the discount it's free shipping if you're in the US. It's a $10 discount if you're not in the US. Tim says, the new link to the Tapestry expansion doesn't show up in the list of Tapestry links on the Stonemaier Games website. List of Tapestry links. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we have to, yes, there is something to add there. I forget how to do that. I'll leave myself a note to talk to Dave about that. It's up there it should be on the main sidebar, but probably not on it doesn't link to the Tapestry page. Link in sidebar. I always forget how to do that. I know how to add it to the main menu, but I always forget how to do it the other way. Or maybe I just didn't save it. No, I think it's on there. I saw it on the main website. Christoph says, what is the time frame for Taliet? I'm not sure what Taliet is. That might be a typo for a Tapestry. For the Tapestry expansion, we will do the pre-order in early September, and it will ship in September as well. I think I missed some questions there. Facebook scrolled past them. So if I missed your questions, just let me know. I will scroll down. Tim says, I recently became a champion. Did I see a shirt somewhere? There is, we have started a tradition for champions where every year we create a new Stonemaier Games t-shirt for champions. We sell them to champions. And we are working on this year's shirt. Last year's shirt, we just made one big batch for everyone who ordered it, and then we were done with it. We have a shirt that we're in the works for this year. Sam says, we added Between Two Castles to our collection and love it as a filler game at 2 players. Can you talk about the design process behind the scoring for the throne rooms? Yeah, we just, the design, I'm not the designer of Between Two Castles, but Ben and Matthew basically wanted to give players just a little starting nudge, something to think about when they have their opening hand, when everything is possible. And so the throne rooms just give you a little bit of a nudge towards 2 different room types that you might consider for your first selection. Yeah, that's the idea behind it. Stan says, are you enjoying the Wheel of Time series? I actually just posted on my personal blog about this the other day. I am enjoying it. I am through book 4 right now. So I'm having fun with that. I'm glad you're enjoying it too. Sam, your comment went away thanks to Facebook. I'm going to scroll down. I'm definitely going to miss some comments here. If I miss it, just repost it. I'm starting over with Carol's comment 6 minutes ago. So if you posted in the last 6 minutes, please repost your comment. But I'm glad you're enjoying the Wheel of Time. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it as well. Carol says, do I have the Command Center expansion for Space Base? And no, I do not have the Command Center expansion. Okay, I'll scroll down here. I'm definitely missing some questions, but I'm catching up a little bit. Daniel says, what's my take on publishing a game within the same universe as an existing Somar title other than Rolling Realms? For example, a Scythe spinoff. Yeah, that's a great question. Scythe is actually the one that I would consider first for that because it is such a defined universe and I love working with Jakob. Euphoria, we originally considered Euphoria spinoffs. We ended up spinning off the IP for a completely different game by, they're now called Pull to Pin games. They were called Overlord games, something like that. But they're Pull to Pin games now. So there is a Euphoria spinoff game that's completely different than Euphoria. It's really cool. It's a social deduction game. Other than that, Pendulum has a pretty cool world. I think we could spin that off, and Wingspan could have a spin-off someday. Yeah. Matthew says, will the base faction balance changes be in the expansion box? So yeah, in Tapestry, we have a few small adjustments to a few of the civilizations. They just impact you at the start of the game, that maybe a fewer points or resources at the beginning of the game, and they are noted on the back page of the Tapestry expansion rulebook. The reason that we didn't reprint the civilizations themselves is because it's possible that we might need to make tweaks in the future based on what could end up being dozens and dozens of civilizations in the game. So we don't want to have to reprint them every time that happens. Ideally, it will never happen, but there's a chance. And so we're just going to put them, and because they're just starting game things, you don't need them throughout the game. If we ever made a civilization or tweaked a civilization where it was a change that you needed to reference throughout the game, we would definitely reprint that map. Let's see. Ricio says, why did you change your mind about adjusting Tapestry civs mid-game? Is that only for the sake of players not having to remember? Yeah, actually, I just kind of talked about this. Part of it is players not having to remember. Part of it is that when you gain a civilization in the middle of the game, it's random. So you don't want to be, like, it should be an exciting moment when you gain a civilization during the game in Tapestry. And so if there's a penalty, if it says like, okay, when you gain this civilization, I keep saying Tapestry, when you gain this civilization and lose 20 points, that's not fun. To gain something that you thought was going to be awesome and all of a sudden you lose 20 points and maybe you don't have any time to do with it. So that's why why we removed any penalties or bonuses that you receive if you receive a civilization in the middle of the game. Don has a nice comment about our customer service. I'm glad to hear that, Don. Pieces do break sometimes, and we are always happy to replace them via our replacement parts form. I'm glad that was your experience. Han says, there are rumors about the balance of the races in the base game. If true, would the expansion rules resolve this issue for the old and new races? Well, Han, we've actually already addressed it. If you go to our Tapestry page on our website, you can see a civilization adjustment guide that has a few small tweaks for a few of the civilizations. Those are also noted in the expansion. Okay, Andrew says, will the first printing of Tapestry expansion also include the copy number like the base game did? No, we didn't do individual printing on the first printing of the expansion. We wanted to keep the cost as low as possible because I did put some pretty expensive landmarks in there. They're expensive to make, and so I didn't want to inflate the cost too much. Not that adding individual numbered adds to the cost all that much. But no, I didn't. I guess I could have, but I didn't think of that. Kyle says, while not on the list for this expansion, have you thought about adding a 5th track to Tapestry? We've thought about it. Yeah, it's possible in a future expansion. Okay, let me take Howard, I'll answer one more question, then I'll jump over to my topics real quick, and then I'll come back for questions. Howard says, what is the Wingspan Oceania timeline? It is in production right now. The timeline is looking like a pre-order in, I believe it's late October is when we're looking for it. Yeah, late October pre-order, shipping in November is what we're currently aiming for. But as I've seen, freight shipping is a lot more unpredictable right now and it's taking longer, so that definitely could vary. Like ideally with Pendulum, we would have already had that in our warehouse when we ran the pre-order so that we could start shipping it right away. That wasn't the case. I don't like to do that, but I wanted to spread that out from the Tapestry expansion a little bit. So real quick, games that I played recently. I played Marco Polo and Clans of Caledonia recently, not for the first time, but for the dozenth time, and had a lot of fun with them. Oh, chocolate of the day. I almost forgot chocolate of the day. This, I haven't opened it yet, but the Board Games and Barbecue podcast, I had a great chat with them the other day, and they were so kind, they sent me chocolate from Australia, some local chocolate. This is called Poppy's Chocolate. Look at these giant macadamia nuts in there. It looks amazing. They sent actually another bar that we dug into first that had pink chocolate. It was from a special pink cacao bean, or where the extract is pink. And so we really enjoyed that one first, and then we'll dig into this one, which looks hearty and delicious. I love macadamia nuts. So that is today's chocolate of the day. What are you all snacking on today if you have any fun treats? I played a bunch of games, which I'll talk about the games in a second. I also had a great chat with Going Analog, with a Shu at Going Analog recently, about some stuff that happened last week, some mistakes that I made last week regarding social media and reviewers, and we talked about that. He'll have an article about that next week on the Going, and it won't be on the podcast, but it'll be on, if you search for Going Analog podcast, you'll see their website. You'll see where that article is going to go live. Oh, and also, I've been talking mostly about the Pendulum ship out. The Scythe Spiral Bound Complete Rulebook is on the same ships as the Pendulum, so that will ship out at the same time if you're waiting to get that as well. It's coming soon, very soon. Cody says, not sure if you can answer this, but in the Somar Games announcement for the Pendulum Watch It Played video, the phrase, "We commissioned the amazing Rodney." Does this mean that publishers need to hire Rodney to create how-to videos? Yes, Rodney is awesome. Rodney runs a business, and his business is that publishers like Somar Games pay him to create content for our games. Rodney is not a reviewer. He doesn't share opinions. He mostly makes how to play videos, like rules replacement videos, and we pay him to do that. Yeah. He also does a few other videos that we haven't done yet. I'm assuming they're also for pay. In fact, I'm almost positive they are for pay. But the rules videos, yeah, whenever you see a rules video and watch it played, it's because a publisher paid Rodney to do that. Chad says, Marvel Champions has announced new folding cards that utilize 2 half sides and 1 unfolding side of the card. They thematically use this for Ant-Man. I have not seen that. I've seen something like that, I think, in like a Transformers game, but I haven't seen that for Marvel Champions. I'll have to check that out. Marvel Champions folding, yeah. Is there a certain name for that expansion where I can look that up? I guess I'll look for Ant-Man on Board Game Geek to see if I can find that. Yeah, I'd love to see how that works. I can't quite visualize it right now, but I'll check that out after I'm done here, Chad. Thanks for sharing. Mitchell says, if this expansion is well received, and I hope it is, do I think it will be included in a Tapestry Essential Edition like Viticulture? No, so that's a good question. And I should probably clear something up there. So Viticulture went through 2 editions, the first edition, then the second edition. And then, and when we published the second edition, we also published a big box expansion with, I think, 11 different modules in it. We called that Tuscany. Later on, we decided to make one more edition of Viticulture and have that be the official edition. That was the Viticulture Essential Edition, and that is essentially Viticulture. That's just what we call Viticulture now. The other editions are completely obsolete. They haven't been in print for years and years now. And at the same time, we said, okay, no one's going to pay more for Tuscany, more for an expansion than the core game. So we're going to distill this down to a few key components. So we moved a few very light components over from the original Tuscany into Viticulture Essential when we created Viticulture Essential, and then Tuscany Essential became its own thing. So really, I see what you're saying here, Mitchell. This is not a typical, I mean, that was a very, very odd thing that does not happen very often. Our typical process is there's no overlap between expansions and base games. Adding this to the core game of Tapestry would make the price so expensive. There's no way we could do that. So with all of our games, starting with Viticulture Essential, the core game is completely separate from expansions. Expansions rely on the core game, so you need the core game, and expansions expand the core game. You can buy the expansion, you'll have no redundant components. We don't just mix and match them at random like that. And I hope this explains the origin of the Essential Edition, because it is kind of, I guess it's a misnomer there, the Essential Edition, that it's a combination of different things that we just added in later. Hope that makes sense. Han says, is pre-ordering the Tapestry expansion tax-free in Europe? Yes, Han. Yeah, when we fulfill games, we ship them from China to fulfillment centers in Canada, the UK, Australia, and the US, and then we ship from those fulfillment centers to customers within that region. That's a system that we created years and years ago that most Kickstarter creators use now. We're not on Kickstarter anymore, but we do run pre-orders, and we use that same method for our pre-orders. And really for any ongoing orders, if you order from our website today, you can see right at the top of the website that we fulfill from those fulfillment centers. So if you order from us, it's going to come from a fulfillment center in your region if you're in one of those regions. Chad says, do the new civilizations interact with the new components, or can they be added to the base game without introducing the new components? All the new components in the base game, or in Tapestry Plans Employees, are designed to be shuffled in right away, if you'd like, with all the original expansion, or with all the original components, and you never have to unshuffle them. They are marked with a little symbol if you want to, but you never need to. And Chad says, are the aliens based on Sam Gray's fan civilization? So yeah, Sam Gray is I guess a fan designer who has designed some fan expansions for Tapestry and for Wingspan. There is one civilization in here that is based on an idea that Sam had. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the Treasure Hunters, actually. That was based on Sam. The aliens, the elements that we ended up using for it, the mechanisms are very different than Sam's, but the name is the same. Zach says, what is the most unique way cards are used in any game? Have you ever wanted to try something different with cards but haven't been able to make it work? One thing I think is really innovative is the clear cards used in games like Edge of Darkness, the recent pirate game that I'm blanking on right now, and the other game. Someone can say it in the comments. I'm blanking on them right now. They're generally deck building games that use clear cards. I think that's really, really innovative. Zach says, and that's actually something that I've wanted to do ever since I saw that. I'm enamored by that. But the prototyping process just seems really, really difficult, especially for blind playtesting. It seems really difficult to do that. So I've been hesitant to do that because I don't know if we can playtest it as much as I'd like to, especially blind playtesting. Matthias says, I've been wanting to ask you what you think about collectionism in board games. I've recently got my hands on some out-of-print games because of fear of missing out. Do I like buying old out-of-print games? Do I have a holy grail game that I've been trying to get, like Hero Quest for some people? So a couple different questions here. I'll answer the last first. And yes, I actually recently got it thanks to the generosity of a Somar ambassador. I really wanted to get the Hobbit Love Letter. I'm not even a huge fan of Love Letter. I enjoy it, but I really wanted the Hobbit version because Megan and I went to New Zealand last year largely because of our love for Lord of the Rings, and we wanted to have that love letter to travel with, to play with friends. So I recently got that. That was my grail game because it was out of print. It was very hard and expensive to get. And so in general, no, I don't really like buying old out-of-print games. I'd rather them remain in print if possible. But every now and then, I think if there's a game that I really want, that I really love, that is older and is awesome and holds up to, I guess, modern standards, I will go after it. But it's pretty rare for me. Cody says, asked on the Somar Games page, but can I tell us the size of the Plans Employees box? What is the size of it? I can. Yeah, I'll pull that up and just say it, and I'll add it to the page. I'll make a note of that. Box size. Okay. The Plans Employees. Oh, sounds like we're getting some alerts here. Maybe a severe thunderstorm alert. There we go. What is the flash flood warning? That's not good. So the box size is 204 by 204 by 53 millimeters, not milliliters. Leaders of Euphoria is the Euphoria spin-off game. Brandon says, how would I handle the dilemma of designing a new game that has a similar theme and similar art style as another game in print? What's your rule of thumb for this? If it's both I would say it's okay to have one thing that's similar. Pretty much every game is similar to some other game, but to have multiple things that are really similar, I would be hesitant to do that. So I would change one of those things, change the theme or change the art style to something unique. Carol says, have I considered adding stickers for Civ adjustments at some point? No, not really, because we have that special texture on the Civ mats that's very expensive to add, and I don't know if we could add that to a sticker as well. I don't think the stickers would feel great on those Civ mats. I guess I could leave that up to you, but I don't want to make something for most people not to even use. Yeah. Don says, have I ever passed on a design pitch and then later kicked yourself for letting it go to another publisher? Letting it, I don't think so. No. I mean, there have been a few games that I've been happy to see them be very successful after we passed on them. One was Honey Buzz, which was on Kickstarter earlier this year or last year. We passed on that. It was a very good game, but just not quite there for me. And I love what I'm blanking on the publisher now, but I love what they did with it. Let's see if I can find Honey Buzz game. It is made by Elf Creek Games. Yeah. I love what they did with it. I don't think the art style that we would have gone with is nearly as good as what they came up with. So I'm really happy they went with that. The other big one is Anachrony. And I think we would have tried to make Anachrony a lighter game, a medium weight Euro game, whereas I think it has done really well as a heavy Euro game. So I'm glad it ended up with Mind Clash. Yeah. Speaking of other games, I do have a few games that I received recently, or that I played and received recently. One is Air, Land, and Sea, which I played just yesterday. I played Unmatched yesterday for the first time. I got and played Marvel Villainous. I have a video about this coming on Friday. I played as Ultron, had a lot of fun with that. And I played The Search for Planet X, which I just did a video about yesterday. Yeah. I also played Senshi. I played Griffland, which is a digital game, a deck building game, and I played Mandala for the first time. Yeah, lots of new games played. I actually met up with a few friends. We just wore masks. We kind of stayed separate from each other on the table, wore masks, washed our hands before and after, and I think hopefully had a very safe experience doing that. But it was good to play multiplayer games with people in person for the first time in a while. Matthew says, will Tuscany be added to the Viticulture app at any time? Yes, it will. They are working on it. Digidiced is working on it. It'll take them some time, but they understand there is a lot of demand for them to add that, and they are going to definitely work on that. But I hope you enjoy the app as it is in the meantime. The Viticulture fully digital, fully intelligent AI app is available on Steam, iOS, and Android right now. Philippe says, what is added with the Tapestry expansion? There is a design diary post about stuff that the design goals. I haven't told people what's in here yet. Just new. I have mentioned that there are new space tiles, new civilizations, and new tapestry cards, as well as two new components, and new landmarks. But I haven't talked about them in detail yet. Jake says, is this expansion the most expensive that you've produced, or would that title go to Rise of Fenris? The most expensive actually is the original Tuscany. The original Tuscany that was on Kickstarter was a giant box of stuff. In terms of stuff that expansions that we're actively producing, the Rise of Fenris would be that. That's the most expensive one. Yeah. Martin says, will there be a Czech edition of the expansion? I don't think so with the first print run. I don't think they opted into the first print run of it. Let's see. Chris says, I'll read Chris's comment here because I think the comment is needed for the question. Chris says he watched my startup video a long time ago. I think he's linking to the brief history of Stonemaier Games video. He says, it left me the powerful feeling that you might have never become such an impactful game designer if I had not decided to also become a publisher, which was a decision that I made up front. I was really excited about really using Kickstarter at the time and also publishing a game of my own design. Chris says, the ratio of designers to publishers is so high these days that it seems nearly impossible to get noticed. What do you think your future would have looked like if you had taken the other path and instead spent your career trying to get publishers to notice and publish your work? Better, worse, more stressful, less stressful, happier, more impactful? I don't know, because I really like, I certainly would have avoided some stress, but I really like a lot of the things that go along with running a business. And I knew that going into it. And that's one of the things I tell designers now, like, do you want to be a game designer or do you want to run a business? I like running a business. I really like that. So I think my life, objectively in a number of ways, while it would have been probably less stressful, it also, I think, is better because I made the decision to be a publisher and a designer. Steven says, how did I find Ron Brown, and will you use him again in the future? Well, I work with him again in the future is maybe a different way of saying that. Stephen, I think I stumbled upon his blog. He posts a blog where he shares his commissioned work because typically in the past, Ron has not worked for a publisher. He has worked for people like you. Like you said, he has blinged out your Robinson Crusoe. That's one of the games that he's made a lot of sculpts for. And so someone might commission him and say, hey, I love Robinson Crusoe. Will you make sculpts for the resources or the buildings in it? And Ron will do that for people. I noticed that on his blog. I love the aesthetic style of it. And it actually was, once I saw that, I was like, oh, this is the style that I want for the Civilization game that I've been thinking about for a while. And that was the impetus for me to start actually designing it. Yeah. So I worked from the ground up with Ron. So Tom confirmed that the folding cards in Marvel Champions are in the Ant-Man and the Wasp pack. I'll check that out. Thank you. Daryl says, will the Tapestry expansion have a printout of the adjustments to the base Tapestry civilizations? Yes, yeah, it'll be on the back page of the rulebook so you can easily reference it at any time during the game. Although, really, you only need it at the beginning of the game. That's the whole point of those tweaks and those adjustments. You only have to care about them at the beginning of the game and only for a few of the civilizations. Sean says, have I considered having a reprint of the civilizations that have been adjusted? We considered it, yeah, but the reason that we're not doing that is that it is possible that the civilizations will need tweaks in the future when we have dozens and dozens of civilizations and different combinations, different player counts. We obviously playtest quite a bit. We do deep data analysis on it now, but it is still possible that we will miss something. And so I don't want to reprint every civilization map every time we need to adjust it. So maybe someday when we are done making Tapestry stuff for sure, maybe then I will do it. But because of the tweaks are just during the setup. I just don't think it's necessary to reprint the expensive player mats when we can just put it on the back page of the rulebook. Dead Reckoning is the other one, and Mystic Veil is the other. Those are the games with the clear cards that I was blanking on in the moment. And Gloom also has clear cards, as Tom mentions here. Mitchell says, you mentioned that in the design diary that the landmarks in the expansion fit better in the capital cities. Does this mean that the capital city mats are reprinted? No, actually the opposite. And it ties into that story I was telling about Ram a second ago. I reached out to Ram. Ram and I started working together before I had really designed exactly how we were going to use the landmarks in Tapestry. And so basically Ram made these amazing sculpts, and he sculpts them by hand. They're not digital. We can't easily adjust the size of them. And so some of the original landmarks don't fit exactly in the capital city as they should. They're close enough. We have guidelines to show you how they're intended to fit. But Ram was operating without the final capital city mats at the time. So the capital city mats did not change at all. Rather, Ram had the real capital city mats to work with when he made the sculpts for the expansion. So he was able to design them to fit precisely on the grid. Canvas has clear cards too. Yeah, and thanks for pointing that out, Mike. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about Canvas. Jan Williams says, there are so many games based on Lord of the Rings. Do I have a particular favorite? Do you ever see a Somar Games producing a Lord of the Rings game? Probably not. Probably not us producing a Lord of the Rings game. Do I have a favorite? I'm probably going to misstate my favorite here because I actually do really like The Hobbit Love Letter. I think it's fun and thematic, and it's short. It does not say it's welcome. I did like Journeys Through Middle-earth. Not enough to replay it a ton of times. I just played it once. I might play it again sometime, but not enough to buy it. And I played one of the original, I think the Reiner Knizia Lord of the Rings game. I played that. Very thematic, even though it's a very Euro-y game. But I probably wouldn't return to that either. So I would say The Hobbit Love Letter would be my favorite in that world right now. I know that's probably blasphemy to those who love Legend, the War of the Rings or Battle of the Five Armies, things like that. But I haven't played those. Damon says, is that a map on the wall behind you? If so, what is it of? And yes, that is a map of Wales. I visited Wales around 10 years ago, maybe even more than 10 years ago now, maybe 15 years ago, and brought that back as a souvenir. Oh, there's also, of course, the Lord of the Rings LCG, which I have played and have enjoyed that too. Chris says, is Walter's belly doing better? Chris, thanks for asking about this. Yeah, so Walter, one of my cats, has been licking, there's this little patch on his belly. He's been licking it raw recently. We think it's out of anxiety, but we don't really know. And so we got him a soft collar, not a soft cone shaped like an avocado that he's wearing at night to prevent him from licking that little patch at night. And so I haven't actually checked it today, but he's worn it 2 nights in a row now. And I'll check on it after this video to see how his belly is doing. I'll make a note. Check Walter's belly to see if that hair is growing back. Carol says, which unmatched characters did you play and did you enjoy it? Yeah, so the unmatched system is a two-player game where you match up very asymmetric characters who duel against each other in this game. We played the Cobble and Fog version of Unmatched, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I played as Dracula, and I lost to Sherlock Holmes. And then I played as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I lost to the Invisible Man. So I'm not very good at it, but I did have fun with it. I did win against the same opponent at Air, Land, and Sea, though. Brian says, I saw Rado really love Pendulum as a turn-based game, so not the untimed variant of the game. What do I think of the difference between Pendulum as a real-time game and versus a turn-based game? I actually love it in both forms. I think it's if you have players with analysis paralysis, I think the timed version is great to keep things moving along at a nice pace. Even in the untimed version, it is turnless. You're still moving the workers simultaneously. I had a great experience playing that with Megan recently as a two-player experience. I think it's great for teaching the game, and I like that you can pivot between the two as you wish. You could play an untimed round and then play timed round for the rest of the game, or you can play an untimed round and a timed round and then go back to the untimed version if you want. And the game is totally designed for you to be able to do that. Ernani mentioned Mandala, which I got to play that recently as well. That is another two-player abstract game with a bit of I cut you choose feel to it. We played it twice, once incorrectly and once correctly, and I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it both times, but had some really, really interesting decisions in it. I'll be doing a video about that soon. Matthias says, how is the integration of the Tapestry expansion with the Automa system for solo play? Yeah, Morton will have a design diary post to talk about that soon, but it is fully integrated with solo play with the intelligent Automa system, and Morton will talk about that on an upcoming design diary post. I want to make a note here real quick. Yeah. Jay says, last week I mentioned Shards of Infinity. Which faction leader do I like to play the most? Jay says he favors Decima. So I actually have not played, I've only played with one where asymmetry really had any impact. Otherwise, they've just been skins, basically, different, the characters haven't had a mechanical impact. Because there is an expansion that adds that, but I don't have that expansion. I have the cooperative expansion, which adds a red character, and I always play red in games if I can, and so I like that character. His name is, I'm forgetting his name. He has dogs. He has like mechanical dogs that he puts out into play that I think are a lot of fun. Chad says, how much do you divulge to a game artist so they can make the artwork? Do they go over the mechanisms or the game rules, or do you just tell them what you want in each piece of art and leave the game a mystery to the artist? I tell them as much as they want to know. Oftentimes I'll hand over the full prototype to them so they can see what's going on. I don't think sometimes they care, sometimes they don't care about the mechanisms. Yeah, I basically give them as much as they need, as much as they want. David says, for those of us who arrived 3 minutes late, including myself, I was 3 minutes late today, can you please repeat the potential order release date for the Tapestry expansion? Yeah, the pre-order, we're aiming for early September, probably September 2nd, and it will ship throughout September to pre-order customers. And then the retail release date will be a few months later. David says, how many pages? I think you're referring to the rule book and the Tapestry expansion. Let's see, how many pages is the rule book? I think it's just 4 pages. Yep, just 4 pages. In fact, I'll show you. Yeah, I can try. The back page of the rulebook. This is what it looks like for the civilization adjustments. So this is also on our website, but it is on the back page of the rulebook. As you can see, there are a bunch of civilizations that aren't impacted by any changes. These aren't new changes. These are the same adjustments that have been in the expansion for a while, or been in the game for a while. And yeah. And the other adjustments are right there on the back page of the rulebook. Hopefully I didn't just spoil anything. I always do. Steven says, what do I mean by the landmarks don't fit? Do I mean that the bases don't fill the little spaces? Yeah, the landmarks fit in the capital cities in Tapestry, but sometimes there are a few that like look like they should fit a bigger space or slightly smaller space. And so you have to look at the guide to see, okay, this is actually an L shape that fills 12 cells on the capital city map. Nathan says, will the space tile that was missing the Conquer icon from the base game be included in the expansion? And yes, it will. I'm glad you asked that. It definitely is. We fit it into the punch board in the expansion. David says, how many pages will the expansion rulebook be? It'll be 4 pages. And there's an Automa rulebook that I think is also 4 pages. Tim says, would you ever play Tapestry without the expansion once you have it? Simply for ease of setup, probably not, because everything just shuffles in. This is a very easy to integrate expansion with the core game. So yeah, everything just shuffles in together. I would have no problem separating things, but I don't think even if I introduced it to a new player with this expansion in particular, I don't think I would need to separate or change anything. Yeah. I have some tips for my cats here about no-no spray. Carol says her cat went on kitty Prozac, and I do have some anti-anxiety medicine coming from my vet to help out Walter, in case that is the problem. Mitchell says, am I able to say how many copies of Pendulum were pre-ordered? Yeah, there were, basically we sold out. I'm not going to say the number here, but we sold out of the pre-order copies that we had available, especially in the US, which we do have like some extra copies in the other fulfillment centers, but we can't continue to accept orders on our web store because it's for everything, every location. So we definitely sold out all the pre-order copies that we had, and we have copies going directly to some retailers and to distributors. So all the first print run is completely sold out at this point. But there will be, you can get it from retailers now because retailers will have it. Sean says, what's my favorite cowboy themed game? I liked Colt Express. I like Western Legends, which I think has an expansion on Kickstarter now. Those are the 2 that come to mind offhand. What about you, Sean? I did a pirate-themed game list recently. I don't know if I have played enough cowboy games to do a top 10, though. Brian says the red character in Shards of Infinity, which I don't think I emphasized this enough, is an awesome game. The red character is Rez. I should remember that because it's almost the word red. Chaz says, do I have a rough ETA for when Pendulum should begin shipping? For most regions, next week. We do have a lot of the fulfillment centers, especially in the US, have a lot of orders to get through, so it might take a few weeks for them to get through it, but they should start next week. Chong has a nice comment here. I won't read it out loud, but it is there. And Chong, thank you. I was reading through it here. Thank you for saying that. Gerard says, how do I feel about, are there plans for legendary boxes for any of your other games other than Scythe? Yeah, there's a post in the Wingspan Facebook group where I posted about this recently, where I was gathering feedback, what people would want from a big box for Wingspan. The challenge is that we don't know what's in all of the future expansions for Wingspan, so we have to create the box in such a way that it is big enough to hold all the possibilities that could emerge in the future, which is tough to do, but we are embarking on that challenge now. We are going to work on it. I think Wingspan is the main one. I think everything else, like Tapestry, as I said, you can remove the insert and fit everything in there. Same with Viticulture if you really wanted to. Even with the insert, you can fit pretty much everything in there. But Wingspan's the main one that we're looking at right now. David says, I'm a super Scythe fan, but what would you tell me to convince me to play Wingspan? Everybody seems to like it, but there's something that's holding me back from buying it. Well, I don't really want to convince anyone of anything, David. But if you like engine building games with a wide variety of cards with unique powers and unique abilities, where every game really can end up feeling quite different because which cards actually show up in that game, I'd encourage you to try Wingspan. You could, here's a suggestion if you'd like. The digital version for Wingspan should come out fairly soon from Monster Couch. So you could try it on Steam, on iOS, on Nintendo Switch, on Android in the near future. Just try it there. It won't cost you much, and you can try it. And if you really like it, then you can get the cardboard version of the game. And yeah, that's kind of an easy way to try a game and see if you actually like it. Stoneblade also posted the next Shards expansion of Board Game Geek. Ooh, that's exciting. That is really cool. I gotta check that out. I am always excited about a Shards expansion, although I don't even have the second expansion. I need to get that one. Shards of Infinity also has a great digital version. If you're curious about that game, you can try that, the digital version of that. Nicholas says, do I still play Ultimate Cutter or Handler? My main asset, or especially back in the day when I was younger, my main asset to any sports team was that I am a sprinter. I'm very fast. And so while I was pretty good at handling the Frisbee, I was much more involved in the running, the cutter, the fetcher of the Frisbee, if you will. I haven't played Ultimate in quite a few years, though. Matt says, can I speak to the increased interaction in the expansion? I want to, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to talk about that over the next week. I'll talk about the main thing that we did to add more interaction, specifically during the conquering elements of the game. There are some civs that add interaction. You'll see those, but there's a new style of Tapestry card in the game that adds some fun interactions during the conquering process. Matt says, will Scythe digital US availability update ? Yes. So the update I have is that they are eyeing late August for the US iOS availability. So typically when that says they're aiming for late August, it means maybe late September. So we'll see how that ends up going. Pete says that the Viticulture he mentioned the Viticulture is a very full box. But I think have you removed the insert, Pete? Not that you'd want to remove the insert per se, but if you do want to fit everything in there, I think removing the insert can solve that problem. Lance says, are there plans for other games to be released on Switch? I've heard it from a few companies. I think Digidiced is considering it for Viticulture. I've heard that from definitely Monster Couch, Wingspan. That's a big thing for them. Maybe Scythe. I don't know. I am largely separate from the digital game development process. I'm very separate from it. I am usually just involved in the licensing stage, and then when I announce it to people. So maybe, yeah. I think I've covered all my topics today. I'm up to date with all of your questions. If I miss any questions, feel free to repeat them here, or if I don't get to it now, post it on YouTube. I'm going to put this on YouTube after this, and I get updates there for new questions that are posted, so I'll be happy to post them there or answer the questions there. But yeah, any other questions before I head out for the day? Yeah, I think I've covered everything. All right, I don't see anything. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you. Oh, one more. Okay, Chad says, which side animal companion would I want to have? No fair saying Roosevelt because they have tigers, and I have cats that look like tigers. What would I choose? I like the idea of having a bird. I like the idea of having a big animal that I can ride around as long as the animal consents to it. Like a musk ox. I like that one. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll go with the Nordic musk ox. A few more late questions here. Let's see. Brandon says, any chance for a neoprene map for Tapestry? I haven't seen too many successful double-sided maps because it's nice to have it one-sided where one side is designed not to slide around. I guess it's possible, but we haven't thought about that at this point. Morgan says, with the pandemic and exploding popularity of Tabletop Simulator, Board Game Arena, do I think it's essential for publishers to license or develop an official digital version of their game in some capacity? I don't know if it's essential, but I think it is. I've come to see it as a service to customers to do that, and as a way to bring in new customers who can learn the game that way and connect with people who want to play games in times where it's kind of tough to do that in person, or very tough to do that. Jeremy, and I'll end it with Jeremy's question, still moving forward with the Design Day plans, Somar Games Design Day. Yes, although it won't be in mid-September. We have bumped it back to mid-November, and we've made it much smaller because of capacity requirements at Pieces where we host Design Day, or who hosts Design Day. Carol mentions Fujikoro having a nice double-sided neoprene map, so I'll have to check that out. Thank you for that recommendation. All right, have a great day. I will see you in the Tapestry Facebook group over the next week with updates about Tapestry plans and ploys. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.